Hello, I am Philippe Girard, and I am a professor in the history department at McNeese State University.
And I am Janet Alured, also a professor in the MSU History Department. And welcome to Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS, where we explore the lives of famous women in history.
Welcome and bienvenue à nos amis francophones. Ceci est la radio de l'Université McNeese.
On the program today, music and history as we retrace the life of a remarkable woman. She grew up in a brothel and on the street. She became an international singing sensation. Then she suffered heartbreak and fell victim to alcohol and drugs. Her name was Edith Piaf.
But first, a song, and we'll start with La Foule, The Crowd, a love song that she released in 1957.
La ville en fête et en délire, suffoquant sous le soleil et sous la joie. Et j'entends dans la musique les cris, les rires qui éclatent et rebondissent autour de moi. Et perdu parmi ces gens qui me bousculent, étourdi, désemparé, je reste là. Quand soudain je me retourne, il se recule, et la foule vient me jeter entre ses bras. Emportés par la foule qui nous traîne, nous entraîne, écrasés l'un contre l'autre, nous ne formons qu'un seul corps. Et le flot sans effort nous pousse enchaîner l'un et l'autre, et nous laisse tous deux épanouis, enivrés et heureux. Entraînés par la foule qui s'élance et qui danse une folle farandole, nos deux mains restent soudées. Et parfois soulevés, nos deux corps enlacés s'envolent et retombent tous deux épanouis, enivrés et heureux. Et la joie qu'elle a poussée par son sourire me transperce et rejaillit au fond de moi. Mais soudain, je pousse un cri parmi les rires quand la foule vient l'arracher d'entre mes bras. Emportés par la foule qui nous traîne, nous entraîne, nous éloigne l'un de l'autre, je lutte et je me débat. Mais le son de ma voix s'étouffe dans le rire des autres, et je crie de douleur, de fureur et de rage, et je pleure. Et traîné par la foule qui s'élance et qui danse une folle farandole, je suis emporté au loin. Et je crispe mes poings maudissant la foule qui me vole l'homme qu'elle m'avait donné que je n'ai jamais retrouvé.
You're listening to KBYS. I'm Janet Alured.
And I am Philippe Girard. We just listened to La Foule by Edith Piaf. And today, we are exploring her life.
And what a life it was. She was born in 1915 in Belleville.
Belleville is a popular neighborhood of Paris. Edith Piaf always kept the working-class Parisian accent of something that we called a titi parisien, which is a Parisian equivalent of a Cockney accent in English. And that always gave her songs more authenticity.
Legend has it, she was born on the pavement, in the street.
Could be. Her father was a street performer and an acrobat, and her mother was a cafe singer from Italy.
Like Billie Holiday, another great singer we profiled on the show, she had a rough upbringing. She was abandoned by her mother at birth. Then her father was drafted in the French army in World War I, so he sent the young Edith back to her mother.
And by that point, the mother was running a brothel in Normandy, and this is where Edith Piaf grew up as a child. And her experience living with prostitutes forever tainted her relationships with men. She later said, quote, "I thought that when a boy called a girl, the girl would never refuse."
Another story about Edith Piaf's childhood is that she was blind for several years.
And then she visited the Basilica of Lisieux, which is an important pilgrimage site dedicated to Sainte Thérèse. And there, miraculously, she got cured. And Edith Piaf always thought that this was a genuine miracle.
As a teenager, Edith Piaf began to perform in the streets as an acrobat and a singer. She made enough money that she could move back to Paris and rent a room. From age 15, she was on her own.
And that's when she met the first man in her life. His name was Louis Dupont. The relationship didn't go too well because he didn't like the idea of her making a living by performing in the streets. And to make matters worse, she had a child by him at the age of 17.
To be honest, Edith Piaf was not the best mother. She left the child unattended while she sang in the streets, and ultimately the father reclaimed custody.
And that little girl was called Marcelle, and she died of meningitis at age 2.
Oh, that's sad. The music of Edith Piaf is sometimes criticized for being a bit downbeat, but when you learn more about her life, you understand where the sorrow was coming from.
Indeed, yeah. Well, it will be time for our second song, and I chose Elle fréquentait la rue Pigalle, one of her early songs from 1939. And it tells a story of a young woman living on the streets of Pigalle, a seedy neighborhood of brothels and sex shops in northern Paris, a bit like Times Square used to be in New York in the 1970s. And clearly that song was inspired directly by her own experiences as a teenager trying to make a living in that particular neighborhood. Elle fréquentait la rue Pigalle by Edith Piaf.
Elle fréquentait la rue Pigalle, elle sentait le vice à bon marché. Elle était toute noire de péché, avec un pauvre visage tout pâle. Pourtant, il y avait dans le fond de ses yeux comme quelque chose de miraculeux qui semblait mettre un peu de ciel bleu dans celui tout sale de Pigalle. Il lui avait dit, vous êtes belle, et d'habitude dans ce quartier-là, on dit jamais les choses comme ça aux filles qui font le même métier qu'elle. Et comme elle voulait se confesser, il la couvrait toute de baisers en lui disant laissons passer. Moi je vois qu'une chose, c'est que tu es belle. Il y a des images qui vous tracassent, et quand elle sortait avec lui, depuis Barbès jusqu'à Clichy, son passé lui faisait la grimace. Et sur les trottoirs pleins de souvenirs, elle voyait son amour se flétrir. Alors elle lui demanda de partir, et il l'emmena vers Montparnasse. Elle croyait recommencer sa vie, mais c'est lui qui se mit à changer. Il la regardait tout étonné, disant « Je te croyais plus jolie ». Ici le jour t'éclaire de trop, on voit tes vices à fleur de peau. Vaudrait peut-être mieux que tu retournes là-haut et qu'on reprenne chacun sa vie. Elle est retournée dans son Pigalle, y a plus personne pour la repêcher. Elle a retrouvé tous ses péchés, ses coins d'ombre et ses trottoirs sales. Mais quand elle voit des amoureux qui remontent la rue d'un air joyeux, y a des larmes dans ses grands yeux bleus qui coulent le long ses joues toutes pâles.
Mesdames et messieurs, venez passer une bonne soirée royale, la seule maison où l'on s'amuse.
Welcome back to Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS. I'm Janet Alluret.
And I am Philippe Girard. Today we're exploring the life of the French street singer Edith Piaf.
She was unknown until 1935 when she was discovered by a nightclub owner.
His name was Louis Leplay, and he's the one who really took her raw talent and turned her into a star. He told her to wear a little black dress, which became her signature. And that's around that time that he had another a very independent Parisian woman called Coco Chanel, who was making the little black dress a thing. Mm-hmm. And that agent, Louis Leplay, is the one who taught Edith Piaf how to act on the stage. And he's also the one who came up with her stage name of La Môme Piaf, which means the child sparrow, or the little bird.
And she was a little bird. She was only 4 feet 8 inches and very skinny.
And her career took off with the help of that man, Leplay. During that time, she met some of the most influential singers of her time, like Maurice Chevalier, and she began her recording career.
But her success was always mixed with controversy, right?
Yeah, yes. Her manager, Leplay, was killed by mobsters, of all people. And then the newspapers accused Edith Piaf of being involved somehow, so she was eventually cleared.
Then World War II came along, and Paris was under Nazi occupation for 4 years.
And during that time, a number of French artists refused to perform as long as France was occupied. But that was not the case of Edith Piaf. She sang in cabarets and brothels that catered to the Wehrmacht and the Gestapo, and she even went on a singing tour to Berlin in 1943.
She never actively supported the German occupation or policies like the roundup of Jews, though, did she?
No. But when France was liberated in 1944, anyone who had been too close to the Germans was considered a traitor. Women who had a child with a German soldier, for example, could be publicly shamed. They would shave their hair. And in some cases, some women were killed. And so that got Edith Piaf into a lot of trouble.
Any other song for us?
Yes, I do have some. It's easy to pick. She made so many great songs. One song I could have played is No, I Regret Nothing, which would be appropriate. It's one of her greatest hits and a song of defiance and non-repentance. But we already played it in another one of our shows, so I decided to go with a song by one of her protégés, the young singer Charles Aznavour. His song has a very different take on the past. It's all about regret and nostalgia, but it's a beautiful song. It is called Hier encore, Just Yesterday, by Charles Aznavour.
Welcome back to Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS.
This was the song Hier encore by Charles Aznavour. My name is Philippe Girard.
And I'm Janet Alluret. We followed the career of Edith Piaf until the liberation of France in 1944. The 1940s and 50s were really the time when she hit it big as a national and international celebrity.
And she was famous enough by that time that she could act as a discoverer of young talent, especially men, some of whom were her lovers as well.
Any famous names on the list?
Not all of them would be known to an American audience, but in France they are household names. People like Yves Montand, who was a very famous singer and actor, and of course Charles Aznavour, a famous singer of Armenian descent.
He's the one whose song we just heard?
Exactly.
She also had a following overseas, including here in the U.S. She did tours in the United States, and she appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show and at Carnegie Hall. Some of her songs became such classics that they were covered by American artists.
And I guess you're thinking of La Vie en Rose, a song that became doubly famous when Louis Armstrong covered it. And both versions are great. We'll listen to the one, of course, by our very own Louis Armstrong from New Orleans, Louisiana. This is La Vie en Rose by Louis Armstrong.
the magic spell you cast. This is La Vie en Rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes, I see La Vie en Rose. When you press me to your heart, and in a world apart, a world where roses bloom. And when you speak, angels sing from above. Everyday void seems to turn into love song. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be La Vie en Rose.
You're listening to KBYS. That was La Vie en Rose by Louis Armstrong. I'm Janet Allured.
And I am Philippe Girard. Today we are retracing the life of Edith Piaf, who sang the original French version of La Vie en Rose.
By the 1940s, Piaf was an international singing sensation, but her personal life was always messy, to say the least.
Well, remember that her parents split up when she was a kid, and that she grew up in a brothel, and then at 17 she had a child who then died from meningitis at age 2, so she didn't start from a very strong foundation, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Of the many men in her life, the one who was truly the love of her life was Marcel Cerdan.
Yes, that's how you pronounce it, Marcel Cerdan. He was arguably even more famous than she was at the time. He was originally from French Algeria, which was a French colony at the time, and most importantly, he was the greatest boxer that France ever produced.
In 1948, he beat Tony Zale in Jersey City and became world champion.
And it's around that time that he and Edith Piaf began their relationship, which was quite scandalous because Marcel Cerdan was already married and he had 3 kids.
He defended his world title against Jake LaMotta, but his shoulder was dislocated and he lost the fight.
And so he was scheduled to do a rematch, but that never happened. He was on his way to the United States when his plane crashed in the Azores.
Wow, what a tragedy. Edith Piaf was in New York City at the time awaiting his arrival, but the great love of her life never came. He died in the crash.
And it was in his honor that Edith Piaf wrote L'Hymne à l'amour, an anthem to love that always gives me goosebumps. The whole song is about her being willing to give everything away for the one man that she ever loved. And the first lines that you'll hear mean the blue sky can collapse, the earth can crash, it doesn't matter as long as you love me. And these lines are especially poignant when you know that she had just lost Marcel Cerdan in a plane crash. Anthem to Love by Edith Piaf, the kind of song that could make you shed a few tears.
Speaking of tears, the end of Edith Piaf's life was rather tragic too.
In 1951, she had a terrible car crash when traveling with the singer Charles Aznavour, whom we listened to just a bit earlier. And then she had 2 more car crashes after that.
As a result, she developed an addiction to painkillers, morphine, and alcohol.
And then by 1963, her liver was failing as a result, and she only weighed a grand total of 66 pounds. She died in October of that year. And as an interesting side note, the church refused to let her have a funeral mass because her romantic life had been so tumultuous, and they had to uphold some standards.
Mm-hmm. She's seen in a more positive light today as an independent woman and a talented artist. Her life was portrayed in multiple movies and documentaries, most famously the one in 2007 that earned Marion Cotillard the Academy Award for Best Actress.
And her songs have also been played and covered multiple times, and she is an inspiration to just about any young female singer in France today. And we will end our musical program with one of these singers, Azaz, and her breakout song, Je veux, which means I want.
Donnez-moi une suite au Ritz, je n'en veux pas. Des bijoux de chez Chanel, je n'en veux pas. Donnez-moi une limousine, j'en ferai quoi? Pa, pa, da, pa, 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 da. J'en ferai quoi? Un manoir à Neuchâtel, ce n'est pas pour moi. Offrez-moi la tour Eiffel, j'en ferai quoi? Pa, pa, la, pa, 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 la. Je veux de l'amour, de la joie, de la bonne humeur. Ce n'est pas votre argent qui fera mon bonheur. Moi je veux crever la main sur le cœur. Allons ensemble découvrir ma liberté. Oubliez donc tous vos clichés. Bienvenue dans ma réalité. J'en ai marre de vos bonnes manières, c'est trop pour moi. Moi je mange avec les mains et je suis comme ça. Je parle fort et je suis France, excusez-moi. Fini l'hypocrisie, moi, je me casse de là. J'en ai marre des lampes de bois. Regardez-moi, de toute manière, je vous en veux pas. Et je suis comme ça. Je suis comme ça. Je veux de l'amour, de la joie, de la bonne humeur. Ce n'est pas votre argent qui fera mon bonheur. Moi je veux crever la main sur le cœur. Allons ensemble découvrir ma liberté. Oubliez donc tous vos clichés. Bienvenue dans ma réalité. Pas votre argent qui fera mon bonheur. Moi je veux crever la main sur le cœur. Allons ensemble découvrir ma liberté. Oubliez donc tous vos clichés. Bienvenue dans ma réalité. Je veux de l'amour, de la joie, de la bonne humeur. Ce n'est pas votre argent qui fera mon bonheur. Moi je veux crever la main sur le cœur. Allons ensemble découvrir ma liberté. Oubliez donc tous vos clichés. Bienvenue dans ma réalité.
This was Je veux by the singer Zaz. Welcome back to KBYS. I am Philippe Girard.
And I'm Janet Alluret. This edition of Your Grandma Rocks retraced the life of French singer Edith Piaf.
Merci, and thank you for joining us.
This program was funded by a Juliet Hartner grant for Women in the Humanities. For more information on how to help finance fellowships at McNeese, contact the foundation at 337-475-5588.
And this program was also sponsored by the Homeland of Dr. Alred and I, and that would be the History Department at McNeese. And if you would like to join us for a history degree, just give a call to the McNeese Admissions Office at 475-5504.